Have you ever looked at a map and noticed how perfectly South America seems to fit into the side of Africa? It's almost like they were once a single giant puzzle piece. Well, they were. But what if I told you that right now as we speak, Africa itself is in the process of breaking apart, and a brand new ocean is being born? It sounds like science fiction, but it's happening, and the evidence is written in the very land itself. Our story begins in a place that looks like it is straight out of a fantasy movie, the Danakil Depression in Ethiopia. This is one of the hottest, lowest, driest places on Earth. It's a surreal landscape of bubbling lava lakes, vast salt flats, and acidic hot springs that paint the ground in otherworldly shades of yellow, green, and orange. And right in the middle of this alien world sits erupted, one of the most active volcanoes on the planet. For centuries, the local Afar people have called erupted the smoking mountain and the gateway to hell, and for good reason. It's one of the few volcanoes in the world with a persistent lava lake, a constantly churning cauldron of molten rock. But this volcano isn't just a spectacular natural wonder. It's a giant fiery warning sign. It's a symptom of immense geological forces that are literally tearing the African continent in two. To understand what's happening, we need to zoom out a bit. The Earth's crust isn't one solid shell. It's broken up into massive tectonic plates that are constantly moving, grinding against each other and pulling apart. The place where Africa is splitting is called the East African Rift System. This is a massive network of valleys, volcanoes, and fault lines that stretches for over 3,000 kilometers, from the Red Sea in the north all the way down to Mozambique in the south. Imagine taking a piece of warm toffee and slowly pulling it apart. It doesn't just snap in half. First it thins out in the middle, stretches, and then fractures start to appear. That's exactly what's happening to the continental crust in East Africa. The land is stretching, thinning, and cracking open. And the Danakil Depression, where our volcano erupted is, sits at the junction of three of these major rifts. It's the geological hotspot where the action is most intense. So, how do we know this is really happening? Well, scientists aren't just guessing. They have hard evidence. Back in 2005, a massive fissure suddenly ripped through the Ethiopian desert. It was incredible. In just a matter of days, a crack 60 kilometers long and up to 8 meters wide opened up. The ground shook with earthquakes, and steam and ash billowed out. It was as if the earth unzipped itself. Geologists were stunned. They realized they were witnessing the very first steps of a new ocean basin forming, a process that usually takes millions of years, happening right before their eyes. Since then, satellite GPS measurements have confirmed it. The two sides of the rift, the Somali Plate and the Nubian Plate, are moving away from each other at a rate of a few millimeters per year. That might not sound like much, maybe about the speed your fingernails grow, but over geological time, those millimeters add up to thousands of kilometers. This separation is driven by a massive plume of superheated mantle rock rising from deep. Within the Earth, this plume is pushing up against the crust, causing it to dome upwards, stretch, and eventually break. As the crust thins, magma can easily push its way to the surface, creating volcanoes like erupted and the countless others that dot the East African Rift Valley. These volcanoes are like vents, releasing the pressure from the colossal forces below. Think of it like this. The entire East African Rift is a seam that is slowly being unstitched. The magma pushing up from below is the thread puller. And every earthquake, every eruption, every new crack in the ground is another stitch being undone. So what does the future hold? Well, don't pack your beach towels just yet. We're talking about a process that unfolds over millions of years. But if the current trend continues, the rift will keep getting wider and deeper. Eventually, the low-lying areas, like the Danakil Depression, which is already below sea level, will be flooded by the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. A long, narrow sea will begin to form, slicing through Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. This new sea will continue to grow, eventually separating a large chunk of East African, including parts of Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, and Tanzania from the rest of the continent. A new, massive island, sometimes called the Somali microcontinent, will be born, and a brand new ocean will fill the gap. In its place will be two separate landmasses with a new ocean between them. This process isn't just a geological curiosity. It has real-world consequences today. The constant shifting of the ground creates earthquakes that can damage infrastructure and threaten communities living along the rift. The volcanic activity, while a tourist draw, also poses a constant hazard. In 2018, a large crack appeared suddenly in southwestern Kenya, splitting a major highway and forcing people to evacuate their homes. It was a stark and dramatic reminder that the ground beneath their feet is not as solid as it seems. But it's also a process of creation. Just as the Atlantic Ocean was formed when the Americas, Europe, and Africa drifted apart, this new ocean will create new coastlines, new ecosystems, and new opportunities for life to flourish. The East African Rift is often called the cradle of humanity because it's where our earliest ancestors evolved. It seems fitting that this ancient land is also the cradle of a new ocean. The story of Africa's split is a powerful illustration of how dynamic our planet is. The world map we see today is just a snapshot in time. Continents are not permanent fixtures. They are constantly dancing, colliding, and tearing apart in a slow, epic ballet directed by the immense heat and pressure from the Earth's core. The bubbling lava of Erta Ale isn't just a gateway to hell. It's a window into the deep time processes that shape our world. It's a fiery, dramatic preview of a future where Africa will have a new coastline and the world will have a new ocean. What we are witnessing in Ethiopia is not an end, but a spectacular and violent beginning. So the next time you look at a volcano, remember, it's more than just a mountain that spews fire.